well, then I don't know what we're doing here.
Neale Hanvey.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It'll be of little surprise that I intend to speak against the autumn statement because it unjustly places the burden on the ordinary people of the countries of the United Kingdom. At the weekend, I was at a performance of a show called Kelty Clippy by the Kingdom Theatre Company, and that performance took me back to a time when our mining communities took pride in their work, when our yards built rigs, when Rosyth was a substantial naval base and local businesses were able to thrive. And while the discovery of North Sea oil and gas promised an embarrassment of riches for Scotland, Gavin Macrone's report, which disclosed this fact, was hidden by successive Labour and Tory governments. Scotland's economy and industry was subsequently dismantled. Oil and gas has kept the UK Treasury pumped full of cash, and Scotland's industry has been decimated. I didn't come here to dot the I's and cross the T's of Tory policy that has been rejected by the people of Scotland for all of my life. I came here to argue Scotland's case, and the autumn statement, as I said, places the burden on ordinary people. They already faced a cost of living crisis, but the £30 billion cost of the incompetence of the former Prime Minister and Chancellor, who now will receive a stipend of over £100,000 for blowing up the economy. And this is on top of 12 years of Tory austerity, not because of profligate public services, because they are breaching the supposed core principles of free marketeers. The failure is supposed to self-regulate markets, and the public's money has been used to bail out failing bankers. The public's money is now bailing out failing energy companies. And the UK's largest producer of... Sorry, somebody keeps phoning me. I've got it switched off. UK's largest producer of semiconductors, to be purchased by a Chinese company, has been blocked by this government. And that's because it's an essential service, they say. It can't be foreign-owned. But many of the UK's energy suppliers are foreign-owned. And what is more essential a service than the provision of energy? The autumn statement is not about fiscal responsibility. It's a frantic response to the utter incompetence of this Tory government. And there's one point on which I agree with the Chancellor when he spoke. His slip of the tongue that this is the English Parliament. Well, it certainly feels like it from my position. What place does Scotland have here? We've got a smattering of unionist MPs, but Scotland is shouted down from the government benches. Our people are ignored. Over the last 9 months, £8 billion of North Sea oil and gas revenue has flowed into His Majesty's Treasury. The percentage share for Scotland was 0%. The block grant gets tighter every year. The Scottish Government are pilloried. The Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition at last week's PMQs spoke about the renewables revolution, investment to deliver jobs and prosperity. For who? Not for Scotland. The profits still flow to Her Majesty's Treasury and to corporate interests. Energy for 2.8 million homes is cabled directly from Scotland's territorial waters to England. There are no jobs for Scotland, no supply chain jobs. The yards sit idle. There's a continued plundering of our resources. And it sincerely saddens me that the Scottish Government replicated UK policy with the ScotWind licence, passing vast profits to corporate interests. 25-year licence with an estimated £350 billion was sold for a measly £700 million. The autumn statement delivers nothing for Scotland. Scottish councils are losing out on levelling up funds administered by Westminster. And despite the many risks of free ports for employment rights and protections, Scotland loses again. The Chancellor's failure to set out costed plans of how these free ports will operate and be funded and function is essential to regeneration, to job creation, trade and with European and other overseas markets, all showing the empty promises of Brexit are exactly that, empty. The Chancellor said his priorities were energy, infrastructure and innovation, but Fife is losing out on all three. Where is the investment for direct ferry links from Rosyth to Europe, now that the European Motorway of the Seas funding is no longer available? Where is the investment in renewables and the jobs bonanza we were promised to secure the future of the BIFAB yards? And why are families across Fife and my constituency being plunged further and further into fuel poverty, forced to pay skyrocketing energy prices, the extortion of standing charges and higher rate on prepayment meters, or sadly self-disconnection because they just can't afford to pay it? There will be even less help from April next year. And one achievement of the Tory policy over the last 12 years is the growth of food banks. And even they are under threat from this Tory government. The Kirkcaldy Food Bank is facing immense costs because need has increased vastly. Their monthly cost used to be around £2,000. They're now approaching £20,000, and they may have to close. Where will people turn to then? The government should be ashamed of this budget, placing the burden of their failures on the backs of the people. It's time for Scotland to take the full powers of an independent country. Our vast resources must be put to work for the common good of the Scottish people. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Avalami.
Thank you,